My 6-year-old daughter was being bullied at school for having dark skin, so I asked my mother-in-law to help. She took my daughter for a weekend and bleached her skin with chemicals until she had burns that needed skin grafts. When I banned her from seeing my daughter, she called CPS and tried to take custody, claiming I was an unfit father. I came home from work one day to the sound of my 6-year-old daughter crying alone in her room. "They hate me, Daddy," she whispered. Well, I immediately grabbed her iPad and noticed she had been watching princess videos, so I assumed that she was just upset about something silly and told her we'd talk about it over ice cream. But it didn't help, because over the next few days she kept trying to get out of going to school, complained of tummy aches, hid under her bed, even cut her own hair thinking I wouldn't send her looking messy. I thought I could see right through her tricks, but as a single dad, you never really feel like you're making the right decision. So I did what any rational father would do in that situation. I called my mother-in-law, Patricia. You see, her birth mom was out of the picture, and I didn't have any other female figures in her life that I trusted. Plus, she always told me I could call at any time. And this was any time, LOL. When she came over, I told her everything that was going on, and she agreed to go undercover. Nothing crazy, just promised to volunteer as a parent helper in my daughter, classroom. I figured Maya would try to argue back or say that she was embarrassed, but instead her face completely lit up. "Yay! Thank you, Nana!" she yelled before stretching her tiny arms to fit around her grandmother's body. Me and my mother-in-law just glared at each other, and I knew we were both thinking the same thing. What the F is going on at school? Well, I didn't have to wait much longer to find out, because halfway through Patricia's first day volunteering, I got the call. It was her class teacher. She was speaking so quietly I could barely hear what she was saying. So, Maya had an incident today during recess. Some children were, well, making comments about her appearance. Patricia witnessed everything. Okay, I responded, trying to keep my voice completely neutral. When they finally got home, my heart was ripped out of my chest, because Maya's eyes were so puffy from crying she could barely see. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law's jaw was clenched tight. I brought them both over to the couch and asked what happened. "Daddy, they said I look dirty," my daughter blurted out. My mother-in-law, Patricia, just stroked her hair, like she was planning something. "Daddy, they said my skin looked like mud. Emma told me her mommy said not to play with dirty kids like me." I felt tears sting my eyes. You see, me and my family are purebred Ghanaians, and I had been blessed to be able to send my daughter to an excellent school in Westchester. And I knew it was a mostly white school, but I thought times had changed. Apparently not. I asked my daughter what she did in response, and she told me that she just sat alone and cried until recess ended. When the teacher asked what was wrong, she was too scared to tell. I felt myself choke up and sniffle to hold back the tears when she said that. The room was silent for a while, and that's when my mother-in-law stood up. "I'll handle this," she said with determination. I thought she meant talking to the principal. I was wrong. Patricia offered to watch Maya for the weekend while I dealt with a work emergency. I agreed, grateful for the help. "We'll have a spa weekend, won't we, baby?" she cooed. Maya nodded excitedly. I should have known something was wrong when Patricia packed 2 large bags for a 2-day stay. When I picked Maya up Sunday evening, I immediately knew something was different. Her skin looked lighter, irritated, red patches on her arms. "What did you do?" I whispered to Patricia while Maya was in the bathroom. "I fixed the problem," she said proudly. "Special baths with lemon juice, baking soda, and hydrogen peroxide. Completely safe mixture my mother used on me. Then vitamin C serum treatments." She loved it. My stomach dropped. "You bleached my daughter?" "I protected her," Patricia hissed. "Look around you. This is a white man's world, and you've seen what happens when you don't adapt. Get out," I said through gritted teeth. The next morning, Maya woke up screaming. Her skin was burning, peeling in sheets. The ER doctor's face went pale when he saw her. "Chemical burns," he said quietly. "What was she exposed to?" "Child services was called, the investigation, the legal battles." Maya needed skin grafts on her arms, but the physical scars were nothing compared to psychological damage. She started saying she wanted pretty skin like the other girls. That's when I decided Patricia needed to understand consequences. I knew she was vain about her appearance, especially her hair. She'd been getting the same expensive treatments for 20 years at the same salon, so I made friends with her hairdresser, paid her triple for some special services. The next time Patricia went for her monthly treatment, she left with her hair falling out in clumps. The conditioner was actually industrial strength hair remover, mixed perfectly to work slowly. By the time she realized, it was too late. Completely bald within days. Turns out Patricia had been doing this to her own daughters for years. My ex-wife hadn't left me. She'd left her mother. And now I found her old diary in a box Patricia had forgotten to mention, detailing decades of skin bleaching that started when she was Maya's age. I stared at the diary, my hands shaking as I flipped through page after page of my ex-wife's childhood trauma. The entries started when she was 7. Patricia had forced her to sit in bleach baths twice a week, made her wear long sleeves in summer to hide the burns, told her she was doing it out of love. The doorbell rang, interrupting my reading. Through the peephole, I saw Patricia standing there, wearing an expensive wig that didn't quite match her original hair color. She knocked again, harder this time. I opened the door but blocked the entrance with my body. She tried to push past me, but I held firm. Her eyes darted around, searching for Maya. She pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots of text messages that looked like they came from my number, inviting her over. Messages I never sent. She had been creating fake conversations, building a case that I wanted her involved. Maya appeared at the top of the stairs, still wearing the special bandages on her arms. Patricia's face lit up when she saw her. She called out to her, arms open for a hug. Maya took one look at her grandmother and ran back to her room, slamming the door. Patricia's expression hardened. She reached into her purse and pulled out a thick envelope. Legal documents. She had been to a lawyer, claiming grandparent rights. The papers detailed how I was an unfit father, how I couldn't handle Maya's needs as a single dad. I grabbed the papers and started reading. She had documented every time I'd asked for her help, every moment I'd seemed overwhelmed. She'd been building this case for months, maybe years, planning for the moment she might need it. The next few days were a blur of phone calls and meetings. I contacted a family lawyer who specialized in grandparent rights cases. She reviewed Patricia's claims and found them baseless, but warned me that Patricia could still make our lives difficult. Maya's recovery was slow. The doctor prescribed special creams and weekly checkups. Every morning, I carefully applied the medication to her burns while she she winced. She asked me why Nana hurt her. I didn't have a good answer. At school, things got more complicated. The principal called me in for a meeting. Patricia had been contacting the school, claiming she needed to be listed as an emergency contact. She told them I was unstable, that Maya needed her grandmother's influence. I provided the school with copies of the medical reports, the details of Maya's chemical burns. The principal's face went pale as she read. She immediately blocked Patricia from any school access and added extra security notes to Maya's file. Patricia didn't give up. She started showing up at Maya's favorite playground, sitting on a bench and watching. When we arrived, I'd turn around and leave. She'd follow us to the grocery store, to the library, always maintaining just enough distance to avoid a restraining order. One evening, while Maya slept, I dove deeper into my ex-wife's diary. The entries from her teenage years were heartbreaking. Patricia had convinced her that no man would want her with her natural skin tone, had made her feel worthless, ugly, damaged. There was one entry that made my blood run cold. My ex-wife had tried to resist the treatments once, when she was 15. Patricia had responded by throwing out all her clothes and buying only white clothing, saying she needed to match her new skin. The psychological torture was relentless. I found photos tucked between pages. My ex-wife as a child, with beautiful dark skin, then progressively lighter in each photo, her smile fading with each year. By the time I met her, she looked nothing like that little girl. The harassment escalated. Patricia started calling my work, telling my boss I was having a mental breakdown. She contacted my neighbors, spinning stories about how I was neglecting Maya. She even reached out to my extended family, trying to turn them against me. I installed security cameras around our house. Within days, I caught Patricia on video trying to leave packages on our doorstep. Gifts for Maya, she'd claim later. But I knew better than to trust anything from her. Maya started having nightmares. She'd wake up screaming about her skin melting off. The therapist said it was trauma response, that it would take time. We started twice weekly sessions, working through what happened. During one session, Maya drew a picture that broke my heart. It showed two versions of herself, one dark, one light. The light one was smiling, surrounded by friends. The dark one was alone, crying. Patricia's poison had already seeped in. I decided to research Patricia's past. I found her yearbook photos, newspaper clippings from her hometown. In every photo from her childhood, she had dark skin. By high school, she was noticeably lighter. The transformation was documented in black and white. I tracked down Patricia's sister, Catherine, who lived 3 states away. When I called her, she was hesitant to talk at first. But when I mentioned Maya and what Patricia had done, Catherine's voice broke. She told me their mother had done the same thing to them. Catherine sent me photos of their childhood. She had refused the treatments after age 12, running away to live with an aunt. Patricia had stayed, had internalized their mother's sickness. Catherine hadn't spoken to Patricia in 20 years. The information gave me ammunition, but I needed more. I hired a private investigator to look into Patricia's past. What he found was a pattern of destroyed relationships, of daughters and granddaughters who had cut contact. Patricia had 3 other grandchildren I didn't know about, all girls. All had been subjected to her treatments. 2 families had restraining orders. 1 had moved across the country to escape her. I compiled everything into a file: medical records, diary entries, witness statements, the private investigator's report. My lawyer said it was more than enough for a permanent restraining order, but I wanted to be thorough. Maya's skin slowly healed, but the emotional scars remained. She started wearing long sleeves even when it was warm. She avoided mirrors. She asked me if she could stay home from school forever. I found a new therapist who specialized in racial identity and childhood trauma. She was a young black woman named Dr. Sebastian, who immediately connected with Maya. Slowly, session by session, Maya started to open up. Patricia's attempts to contact us became more desperate. She sent letters through mutual friends. She created fake social media accounts to message me. Each attempt was documented, added to our growing file. One day, Maya asked to see the photos of her mom as a child. We sat together on the couch as I showed her. Maya traced her finger over her mother's face, seeing the resemblance. She asked me why Nana wanted to change how mommy looked. I tried to explain in terms a 6-year-old could understand, that sometimes hurt people hurt other people, that Nana's mommy had been sick in her thinking, and had made Nana sick too, that it wasn't Maya's fault, or her mommy's fault. Maya was quiet for a long time. Then she asked if her mommy had left because of Nana. I couldn't lie to her. I told her yes, that her mommy had needed to get away to feel better. Maya nodded like she understood. The breakthrough came when I found a USB drive hidden in the diary. It contained videos my ex-wife had secretly recorded. Patricia berating her for not applying enough lightening cream. Patricia throwing away her makeup because it was too dark. Patricia telling her no man would love her natural self. In one video, my ex-wife was pregnant with Maya. Patricia was already planning which products to use on the baby. My ex-wife was crying, begging her to stop. Patricia called her ungrateful, said she was trying to save Maya from a hard life. I made copies of everything and sent them to my lawyer. She said it was enough to ensure Patricia would never get near Maya again. But I knew legal protection was just the first step. The real work was healing Maya's sense of self. We started new traditions. Every Sunday we'd look at photos of our ancestors, talking about their strength and beauty. I bought books with characters who looked like Maya. We found a new school with more diversity, where Maya wouldn't be the only black child. Patricia made one last attempt. She showed up at Maya's new school trying to volunteer again, but the security guard recognized her from the photo I'd provided. She was escorted off the property, and the police were called. That night, Maya crawled into my bed. She told me she was glad Nana couldn't come to her school anymore. Then she asked if her skin would ever go back to being dirty. I held her close and told her she was never dirty, that she was perfect exactly as she was. The healing would take time. There would be more therapy sessions, more difficult conversations, more moments of doubt, but we would face them together, and Patricia would never get the chance to poison another generation. I thought about my ex-wife, wherever she was. I hoped she had found peace, had learned to love herself again. I promised her silently that I would protect Maya from the sickness that had stolen her childhood. As Maya slept beside me, I pulled out my phone and deleted Patricia's number. She was no longer family. She was just another stranger who would never hurt my daughter again. The morning after deleting Patricia's number, I woke to find Maya standing by my bed, holding her bandaged arms carefully against her chest. She She had dressed herself in a long-sleeved shirt despite the warm weather. I helped her change the bandages, noting how the burns were healing but still looked angry and red. During breakfast, Maya pushed her cereal around the bowl without eating. I noticed her studying her hands, turning them over and examining the skin. When I asked what she was thinking about, she just shrugged and continued staring. The doorbell rang while I was cleaning up. Through the window, I saw my neighbor holding a large gift basket wrapped in cellophane. When I opened the door, she handed it to me with an uncomfortable expression. She explained that Patricia had dropped it off at her house, asking her to deliver it since she knew we were friends. Inside the basket were expensive lotions, bath products, and a note in Patricia's handwriting. The note talked about forgiveness and family bonds. I threw everything in the trash, but not before Maya saw it. She asked if it was from Nana, and when I nodded, she retreated to her room. That afternoon, I received a call from my sister in Atlanta. Patricia had contacted her, crying about being kept from her granddaughter. My sister wanted to know what was really happening. I spent an hour explaining everything, sending her photos of Maya's burns and excerpts from the diary. My sister was horrified but admitted Patricia had already convinced several family members that I was being unreasonable. Over the next week, more relatives called. Patricia had reached out to cousins, aunts, uncles, even family friends. Each conversation followed the same pattern. They'd start sympathetic to Patricia, then grow quiet as I explained what she'd done. Some believed me immediately. Others remained skeptical, suggesting that maybe Patricia had just made a mistake. Maya's therapy sessions with Dr. Sebastian continued twice a week. During one session, Dr. Sebastian asked to speak with me privately afterward. She explained that Maya had been drawing pictures of herself with different colored skin, asking which one was prettiest. The psychological damage was deeper than we'd initially thought. I decided to take time off work to focus on Maya's recovery. My boss was understanding, especially after I explained the situation, but Patricia had called the office multiple times, and HR had to issue a formal warning to stop the harassment. One morning, I found Maya in the bathroom with my razor, trying to shave the hair on her arms. She said the other kids at school didn't have hair on their arms. I gently took the razor away and held her while she cried. We were late to school that day because I couldn't let her go feeling that way about herself. The school counselor called me in for another meeting. Some parents had been asking questions about Maya's bandages and why she was missing so much school. Patricia had been calling other parents, expressing concern about my parenting. The counselor assured me they were handling it, but I could see the situation was becoming complicated. I started documenting everything more carefully. Every call from a relative, every attempted contact, every incident at school went into a folder. My lawyer said we needed to be prepared for anything Patricia might try next. Catherine called one evening while Maya was asleep. She wanted to share more about their childhood. She told me about the summers they spent indoors because Patricia was too light to tan properly, about the special soaps and creams their mother forced on them, about how Patricia had been the favorite because she'd embraced the treatments while Catherine resisted. Catherine also revealed something that made my stomach turn. Their mother had tried the same treatments on Catherine's daughter years ago. That's when Catherine had cut off all contact. She warned me that Patricia wouldn't give up easily. The pattern was too deeply ingrained. I found myself checking the security cameras obsessively. Patricia appeared at different times, sometimes just walking by, other times lingering at the edge of the property. She never technically trespassed, but her presence was constant and unsettling. Maya's physical healing progressed, but new behaviors emerged. She started organizing her toys by color, putting the lighter colored dolls in front. She asked me to buy her different shampoo because hers was for dark hair. Each incident felt like another piece of Patricia's poison working its way through my daughter's mind. During a family video call with my parents in Ghana, Maya refused to appear on camera. She hid behind me, whispering that she looked ugly. My parents were heartbroken. They'd been planning to visit, but I worried about how Maya would react to more family members commenting on her appearance, even positively. The private investigator I'd hired sent me his full report. Patricia's pattern went back decades. He'd found records of complaints from a daycare where she'd volunteered 20 years ago. Parents had noticed their children coming home with irritated skin. Nothing was ever proven, but several families had quietly removed their children. I reached out to one of those families. The mother was hesitant to talk at first, but when I explained my situation, she opened up. Her daughter, now in her 20s, still struggled with skin issues and self-image. They'd never pursued legal action because they couldn't prove Patricia had done anything intentionally. Patricia's attempts to infiltrate our lives became more creative. She started attending the same grocery store at our usual shopping time. She joined the library's reading program, knowing we went to story time every Saturday. Each time we saw her, Maya would freeze, then ask to leave immediately. I changed our routines, shopping at different times, finding new libraries, but it felt like Patricia was always one step ahead. She had decades of experience being calculating, while I was just learning to protect my daughter from her own grandmother. One afternoon, Maya's teacher called to say Patricia had sent a large donation to the school's fundraiser in Maya's name. The school was unsure whether to accept it, given the circumstances. I told them to return it, but the damage was done. Other parents were talking about the generous grandmother being kept from her grandchild. The narrative Patricia was building became clearer. She was the concerned grandmother. I was the unstable single father, and Maya was the victim caught in between. It was insidious and effective. Some people who'd initially supported me began to wonder if maybe I was overreacting. Dr. Sebastian suggested we try play therapy to help Maya process her feelings. During one session, Maya created a story about a princess who painted herself different colors to make friends. The princess ended up with no friends because she couldn't remember her real color. Dr. Sebastian and I exchanged knowing looks over Maya's head. I started researching support groups for families dealing with colorism and internalized racism. Most were focused on community-wide issues, not the specific trauma of family-inflicted harm. We were navigating largely uncharted territory. Patricia's sister Catherine decided to fly in for a weekend. She wanted to meet Maya and share her own story of resistance and healing. When she arrived, I was struck by how comfortable she seemed in her own skin, how different she was from Patricia despite sharing the same upbringing. Catherine spent hours with Maya, showing her photos of strong, beautiful Black women throughout history. She told age-appropriate stories about their family's real heritage heritage, the parts Patricia had tried to erase. Maya listened intently, asking questions about why Nana didn't like their real color. That weekend, Catherine also helped me understand Patricia's psychology better. She explained how their mother had broken Patricia down systematically, making her believe she was only valuable if she could pass for lighter. Patricia had internalized it so completely that she genuinely believed she was helping when she hurt others. After Catherine left, Maya seemed slightly better. She asked to see more pictures of our family in Ghana. We spent evenings looking through photo albums, with me telling stories about each relative. Slowly, she began to see beauty in features that looked like hers. But Patricia's campaign continued. She started a blog about grandparent alienation, never mentioning names but clearly telling her version of our story. Friends sent me links, concerned about what she was writing. Each post painted her as a victim, and me as a cruel son-in-law keeping her from her beloved granddaughter. The blog gained traction in certain circles. I started receiving messages from strangers telling me to let Patricia see her granddaughter. Some were polite, others less so. I had to make my social media accounts private and screen all communications. Maya's school implemented additional security measures after Patricia was caught trying to volunteer for a field trip under a different name. The principal assured me they were taking it seriously, but I could see the strain it was putting on everyone. During this time, I discovered more videos on the USB drive. Hours of footage my ex-wife had secretly recorded. Patricia measuring her daughter's skin tone against paper bags. Patricia throwing away birthday photos because my ex-wife looked too dark in them. Patricia telling her teenage daughter that she'd never find love unless she maintained her treatments. The evidence was overwhelming, but also heartbreaking. I understood now why my ex-wife had left so suddenly, why she'd cut all contact. She'd been trying to break free from a lifetime of psychological abuse. I tried reaching out to my ex-wife through old mutual friends, hoping she might want to know about Maya's situation. No one had current contact information. She'd disappeared completely, probably to finally heal in peace. I couldn't blame her, but I wished Maya could hear from her mother that being dark-skinned was beautiful. Patricia's influence reached into unexpected places. The salon where I'd arranged her hair disaster faced vandalism. While nothing could be proven, the timing was suspicious. The hairdresser called me, frightened but still unwilling to reveal what had really happened. I felt guilty for involving her but didn't regret protecting Maya. Maya's burns finally healed enough to stop needing bandages, but the scars remained, both the physical ones on her arms and the invisible ones in her mind. She still chose long sleeves most days, still avoided mirrors, still asked when her skin would be normal. The therapy sessions became our anchor. Dr. Sebastian worked patiently with Maya, using dolls and art to help her express feelings she couldn't put into words. Progress was slow, measured in tiny victories. A day without asking about her skin color, a moment of laughing at her reflection, a picture drawn where she colored herself brown. I learned about post-traumatic stress in children, about how trauma could manifest in unexpected ways. Maya developed new fears, of taking baths, of trying new soaps or lotions, of anyone touching her skin. Each fear traced back to that weekend with Patricia. The financial strain added another layer of stress. Between therapy sessions, medical bills, security measures, and legal consultations, the costs mounted quickly. Patricia, meanwhile, used her resources to maintain pressure from multiple angles. One particularly difficult day, Maya asked if she could live with Nana instead. She said maybe Nana could finish making her pretty. The words hit me like a physical blow. Even after everything, Patricia's poison was still working, making Maya believe she needed to be fixed. I spent that night researching boarding schools, wondering if removing Maya from the entire situation might help, but running felt like letting Patricia win. Plus, Maya needed stability, not more upheaval in her young life. The investigator found one more piece of Patricia's history, a cousin who'd filed a police report 15 years ago after Patricia had chemically burned her daughter during a beauty treatment. The case had been dropped when the family moved away, but the report remained. It showed a clear pattern of behavior spanning generations. I compiled everything into a comprehensive file. Medical records, diary entries, videos, witness statements, police reports, therapy notes. My lawyer said it was enough for a restraining order, but I wanted to be absolutely certain Patricia could never claim ignorance or accident. During Maya's sessions, Dr. Sebastian began incorporating more cultural education. She brought in books featuring Black protagonists, played music from Ghana, even taught Maya some traditional games. Slowly, Maya began to show interest in her heritage beyond just skin color. Patricia's blog posts became more aggressive, featuring barely veiled threats about what happened to fathers who kept children from loving grandmothers. She posted old photos of herself with Maya, from before the incident, painting a picture of a perfect grandmother-granddaughter relationship destroyed by a vindictive father. The comments on her blog were split. Some supported her, sharing their own stories of being kept from grandchildren. Others questioned why she never addressed the specific allegations, why she focused on emotions rather than facts. The divide reflected what was happening in our extended family. I found myself becoming hyper-vigilant, checking locks multiple times, watching for Patricia's car, screening every interaction Maya had with others. The stress affected my work, my sleep, my health, but I couldn't let my guard down when Maya's well-being was at stake. One morning, Maya announced she wanted to cut her hair short like a boy. When I asked why, she said boys didn't have to worry about being pretty. It was another heartbreaking moment in a series of them, another way Patricia's actions rippled through our lives. Instead of dismissing the idea, I took Maya to a salon specializing in natural hair. The stylist, a warm woman named Keisha, spent time talking to Maya about how hair could be fun, how it could be an expression of who she are, not who others wanted her to be. Maya left with a cute short style and the first genuine smile I'd seen in weeks. Patricia responded to the haircut by sending letters to family members with old photos, lamenting how I was destroying Maya's beauty. Some relatives called to criticize the decision, others to offer support. The family divide deepened with each incident. Through all of this, I kept returning to my ex-wife's diary, looking for clues about how to help Maya. One entry stood out. She'd written about a teacher who told her she was beautiful just as she was. That single voice of affirmation had sustained her through years of her mother's mother's abuse. I realized Maya needed more voices like that. I enrolled her in a Saturday program at a cultural center, where she could be around other Ghanaian children. The first day was hard. She clung to me, worried the other kids would think she was dirty. But the teachers were prepared, creating a welcoming environment where every child was celebrated. Patricia discovered the program and began showing up outside, watching through the fence. The center's security quickly identified her as a problem, adding her photo to their watch list. But her presence lingered like a shadow over what should have been a safe space. The escalation continued as Patricia hired her own private investigator to follow us. I noticed the same car appearing wherever we went. My lawyer filed harassment charges, but Patricia claimed she was just gathering evidence for her grandparent rights case. Maya's progress in therapy remained slow but steady. She began to verbalize her feelings more, expressing anger at Nana for hurting her, confusion about why someone who claimed to love her would cause her pain. Dr. Sebastian guided these conversations carefully, validating Maya's feelings while helping her process them. I discovered Patricia had been reaching out to Maya's biological mother's family, trying to gather support from that side. Most had never been involved in Maya's life, but suddenly I was fielding calls from people claiming concern about my parenting. The situation felt like a chess game where Patricia had more pieces and knew all the moves. Every action I took to protect Maya was countered by two from Patricia. The stress began affecting Maya again. She started having accidents at school, regressing in ways that worried her teachers. During a particularly low moment, I considered giving in, allowing supervised visits just to make the harassment stop. But then I'd look at Maya's scars, remember her screams that morning after the burns, and my resolve would strengthen. Patricia had shown who she was. I couldn't let her near my daughter again. The cultural center became our refuge. Maya slowly began making friends, children who looked like her and didn't question her worth. She started coming home with stories about games they'd played, songs they'd learned. It was the first positive development in months, but Patricia found ways to taint even that. She contacted other parents from the center, spreading her version of events. Some families distanced themselves from us, not wanting to be involved in drama. Others rallied around us, having experienced similar colorism in their own families. I realized we were fighting not just Patricia, but generations of internalized hatred. The poison she'd inherited from her mother, that she'd passed to my ex-wife, that she'd tried to pass to Maya. It was bigger than one person, but I was determined it would stop with my daughter. As Maya's 7th birthday approached, I worried about how to celebrate. Previous years, Patricia had always been involved in planning. Maya asked if Nana would come to her party. When I said no, she nodded sadly, but didn't argue. We decided on a small celebration at the cultural center with her new friends. As I watched Maya playing, laughing, being a normal child for a few hours, I felt a mix of hope and exhaustion. The battle with Patricia was far from over, but Maya was surviving, even occasionally thriving. The party was interrupted by a delivery, a huge cake from Patricia, decorated with a photo of her and Maya from before. The staff intercepted it before Maya could see, but the message was clear. Patricia would not give up. She would keep finding ways to insert herself into our lives. That night, as I tucked Maya into bed, she asked me a question that showed how deeply she'd been thinking. She wanted to know if Nana was sick in her brain like her great-grandmother had been. I told her yes, that sometimes hurt traveled through families like a sickness. She thought about this, then asked if she might get sick too. I assured her that we were breaking the pattern, that she would grow up knowing she was perfect exactly as she was. She seemed satisfied with this answer, but I lay awake wondering if I could keep that promise. Patricia's shadow loomed large, and the fight to protect Maya from her grandmother's poisonous love was far from over. The next morning brought a new challenge. Patricia had filed an official complaint with Child Protective Services, alleging neglect and psychological abuse. Even though I'd expected something like this, seeing the official paperwork made my hands shake. The war for Maya's well-being had entered a new phase. The Child Protective Services investigator arrived 2 days later. I had prepared meticulously, organizing medical records, therapy notes, and school documentation into labeled folders. The investigator, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, sat at our kitchen table reviewing everything while Maya played in the next room. She examined the photos of Maya's chemical burns, the hospital discharge papers, the skin graft documentation. Her expression grew increasingly grim as she read through Dr. Sebastian's therapy notes detailing Maya's psychological trauma. I showed her the security camera footage of Patricia lurking outside our home, the restraining order paperwork we'd filed, the evidence of harassment. The investigator spent an hour observing Maya, watching her color at the dining table. Maya kept pulling her sleeves down to cover her scarred arms, glancing nervously at the stranger. When asked about her grandmother, Maya's whole body tensed. She whispered that Nana had hurt her skin and she didn't want to see her anymore. After the investigator left, I found Maya hiding in her closet, knees pulled to her chest. She thought she was in trouble, that someone would take her away. I sat on the floor outside the closet door, explaining that the lady was there to help keep her safe. Maya crawled into my lap, and we stayed there until she stopped shaking. Patricia's response came swiftly. She filed a counter-complaint, alleging I had coached Maya to lie. She submitted photos from before the incident, showing a happy grandmother and granddaughter. She included character references from her church friends who knew nothing about what she'd done. The investigation expanded. I had to take Maya for a forensic interview at the Children's Advocacy Center. The building had colorful murals and toy-filled waiting rooms, but Maya saw through the cheerful facade. She gripped my hand so tightly her little nails left marks. The interviewer, trained in child psychology, gently guided Maya through questions about what happened that weekend with Nana. While Maya was in the interview room, I paced the hallway, watching other families in various stages of crisis. A mother sobbed quietly in a corner. A father stared blankly at educational posters about child safety. We were all there because someone who should have protected our children had failed them. The interview lasted 45 minutes. Maya emerged exhausted, her face puffy from crying. The interviewer pulled me aside, confirming that Maya's account was consistent with the medical evidence and showed no signs of coaching. She said Maya had drawn pictures during their talk. One showed her with red, peeling skin, tears streaming down her face. That evening, Catherine called with distress disturbing news. Patricia had contacted her, trying to recruit her as a character witness. When Catherine refused, Patricia had threatened to reveal family secrets Catherine had shared in confidence decades ago. The manipulation tactics were escalating, becoming more desperate and vindictive. I decided to be proactive. I reached out to the other families the private investigator had identified, the ones whose daughters Patricia had harmed. Two agreed to provide statements. One mother sent photos of her daughter's scarred arms from a beauty treatment Patricia had performed 15 years ago. Another provided therapy records showing her daughter's ongoing struggles with self-image. The school situation deteriorated further. Patricia had convinced a few parents that I was an unstable single father who couldn't properly care for a mixed-race child. She played on subtle prejudices, suggesting Maya needed a woman's influence, particularly one who understood how to help her fit in better. Some parents started excluding Maya from playdates. Dr. Sebastian recommended increasing therapy to 3 times a week. During one session, she had Maya create a body map, drawing how she felt about different parts of herself. Maya colored her arms black, her face gray, her heart broken in half. When asked about the broken heart, Maya said part of it still loved Nana, but the other part was scared. I discovered Patricia had been visiting local churches, presenting herself as a grandmother denied access to her grandchild. She'd crafted a compelling narrative about cultural differences, and a son-in-law who didn't understand the challenges of raising a biracial child. Several pastors called me, offering to mediate. I had to explain the truth repeatedly, showing photos of Maya's burns to counter Patricia's lies. The financial pressure mounted. Patricia had deep pockets and wasn't afraid to use them. She hired a high-profile family law attorney known for aggressive grandparent rights cases. I had to take out a loan to match her legal firepower, knowing I couldn't afford to be outgunned in court. Maya's 7th birthday came and went quietly. She didn't want a party, afraid Nana might show up. Instead, we spent the day at home, baking cookies and watching her favorite movies. When bedtime came, she asked if turning 7 meant she was old enough to decide she never wanted to see Nana again. I told her yes, her feelings mattered and would be heard. The Child Protective Services investigation concluded after 6 weeks. The investigator found the allegations against me unsubstantiated and noted concerns about Patricia's behavior. However, she couldn't formally recommend against grandparent contact without a court order. The report became another document in our growing legal file. Patricia's blog evolved into a full website with forums for alienated grandparents. She never used our real names, but the details were specific enough that people in our community recognized us. I started getting hostile looks at the grocery store from strangers who'd read her version of events. Maya noticed the stares and whispers, adding another layer to her anxiety. One morning, I woke to find Maya in the bathroom, scrubbing her arms with a washcloth until they were raw. She said she was trying to make the scars go away so people would stop looking at her. I gently took the cloth away, applied soothing cream to her irritated skin, and held her while she sobbed about wanting to be normal again. The breaking point came when Patricia showed up at Maya's therapy appointment. She'd somehow discovered the location and timing, waiting in the parking lot. When we arrived, Maya saw her grandmother's car and became hysterical, refusing to leave our vehicle. I had to call the police while Maya hyperventilated in the back seat. The officers made Patricia leave, but the damage was done. Maya was too upset for therapy that day. Dr. Sebastian came to the parking lot, sitting with us in the car until Maya calmed down. She recommended we find a new location for future sessions, somewhere Patricia couldn't ambush us. That night, I made a decision. We needed a fresh start, away from Patricia's reach. I began researching jobs in other states, focusing on areas with diverse communities where Maya wouldn't stand out. It felt like running away, but protecting Maya had to come first. Catherine flew in again, this time bringing boxes of family photos and documents Patricia had tried to hide. Among them were letters from their grandmother, the woman who'd started this cycle of self-hatred. The letters detailed instructions for skin lightening, warnings about the dangers of being too dark, promises that suffering now would lead to a better life later. We spent a weekend creating a new narrative for Maya. Catherine and I made a scrapbook of strong, beautiful women in our family who'd embraced their natural appearance. We included photos of Maya's mother as a child before Patricia's treatments began. Maya studied each picture intently, tracing the faces with her small finger. The legal battle intensified. Patricia's attorney filed motion after motion, demanding grandparent visitation rights. Each court appearance meant taking time off work, paying legal fees, and explaining to Maya why we had to go to the big building with security guards. The stress affected us both. I lost weight. Maya started wetting the bed again. During one court hearing, Patricia's attorney argued that I was poisoning Maya against her grandmother. He presented the blog posts, the character references, the photos of happier times. Our attorney countered with medical records, therapy notes, and statements from other families Patricia had harmed. The judge listened impassively, giving no indication of his thoughts. Maya had to undergo another evaluation, this time with a court-appointed psychologist. The sessions were grueling, forcing her to relive the trauma repeatedly. After each one, she'd come out drained, asking why she had to keep talking about what Nana did. I had no good answer except that it would help keep her safe. The psychologist's report was thorough and damning. He detailed Maya's trauma symptoms, her fear response to Patricia's name, the drawings depicting her distress. He noted that forced contact would likely cause significant psychological harm. It was validation, but I hated that Maya had to suffer through the evaluation to get it. Patricia's desperation reached new heights. She hired a publicist to spread her story wider, appearing on podcasts about grandparent alienation. She never mentioned the chemical burns or the pattern of abuse. Instead, she painted herself as a loving grandmother, punished for trying to help her granddaughter navigate a racist world. I had to explain to Maya why some people at school were acting differently toward us. She'd overheard parents whispering, caught classmates repeating things they'd heard at home. I kept the explanation simple. Sometimes people believed stories that weren't true, but we knew the real truth, and that's what mattered. The job search finally yielded results. A company in Portland offered me a position with relocation assistance. The city had a strong Ghanaian community, good schools, and most importantly, distance from Patricia. I accepted immediately, knowing we needed geographical space to heal. When I told Maya we were moving, her first question was whether Nana could find us there. I promised we'd be safe, that it would be a new adventure. sure. She seemed relieved, then worried about leaving Dr. Sebastian. I assured her we'd find a new therapist who would help just as much. The final court hearing arrived 3 weeks before our planned move. Patricia's attorney made one last aggressive push for visitation rights, arguing that grandparents had fundamental rights to relationships with their grandchildren. He painted me as vindictive and controlling, Maya as a victim of parental alienation. Our attorney systematically dismantled their arguments. She presented the full pattern of abuse, the generational trauma Patricia perpetuated, the harm she'd caused multiple children. She showed the court Maya's drawings, played excerpts from the forensic interview, submitted the psychological evaluations. The evidence was overwhelming. The judge's decision was swift and decisive. No grandparent visitation, a permanent restraining order. Patricia was to have no contact with Maya directly or indirectly. The judge noted the clear and convincing evidence of harm and stated that protecting Maya's well-being superseded any grandparental rights claims. Patricia's face crumbled at the verdict. For a moment, I saw not the manipulative woman who'd hurt my daughter, but a broken person trapped in cycles of pain she couldn't escape. Then she straightened, whispering something to her attorney about appeals. I grabbed Maya's hand and left quickly, not wanting to prolong the encounter. The moving truck arrived on a rainy Tuesday. Maya helped pack her toys, carefully wrapping each doll regardless of its color. She'd made progress, no longer organizing them by skin tone, no longer favoring the lighter ones. Small victories, but victories nonetheless. As we loaded the last boxes, Patricia appeared one final time. She stood at the legally required distance, watching silently. Maya saw her and pressed against my leg, but didn't panic. We continued loading the truck as if she wasn't there. When we finally drove away, Maya waved goodbye to the house, not to her grandmother. The drive to Portland took 3 days. We stopped at roadside attractions, ate at diners, sang along to Maya's favorite songs. With each mile, I felt the weight lifting. Maya smiled more, laughed easier, seemed lighter somehow. The geographical distance was already helping. Our new apartment was smaller but brighter. Maya chose purple paint for her room, excitedly planning where everything would go. The complex had several Ghanaian families who welcomed us warmly. Their children immediately absorbed Maya into their games, not questioning her appearance or her worth. I found Maya a new therapist, Dr. Chen, who specialized in trauma and cultural identity. The first session went well. Maya opened up about the move, her hopes for making friends, her lingering fears about her skin. Dr. Chen listened patiently, validating Maya's feelings while gently challenging her negative self-perceptions. 3 months after the move, Maya asked to join the local Ghanaian dance troupe. Watching her learn traditional dances, surrounded by children who looked like her, celebrating their shared heritage, it was everything I'd hoped for. She still had difficult days, still struggled with her scars, both visible and invisible, but she was healing. The last I heard, Patricia was still fighting the court decision, filing appeals that went nowhere. Her blog turned darker, the comment sections filling with increasingly hostile rhetoric. Catherine kept tabs on her, making sure she wasn't planning anything drastic. But for us, Patricia had become a distant threat rather than an immediate danger. On Maya's 8th birthday, she requested a big party with all her new friends. As I watched her dancing, laughing, comfortable in her own skin, I thought about how far we'd come. The journey wasn't over, healing rarely is, but we'd broken the cycle. Maya would grow up knowing she was beautiful exactly as she was, never needing to change for anyone's comfort. That night, as I tucked her in, Maya told me she'd been thinking about her mom. She wondered if her mom was somewhere safe, somewhere she could be herself. I told her I believed so, that her mom had been brave to leave and find healing. Maya nodded, then said she was glad we'd been brave too. The scars on Maya's arms had faded to thin silver lines. The scars on her heart were healing more slowly but surely. We'd found our new normal, therapy appointments, cultural celebrations, a community that embraced us. Patricia's poison had been potent, but love and distance had proven stronger. I kept my ex-wife's diary in a safe deposit box, evidence of generational trauma that stopped with us. Someday, when Maya was older, I'd share the full story. For now, she knew enough that hurt people sometimes hurt others, that family should protect not harm, that she was perfect without modification. Our life in Portland settled into peaceful rhythms. Maya thrived at her new school. I found fulfillment in work that didn't require constant vigilance. We built friendships based on truth rather than carefully managed narratives. The hypervigilance faded, replaced by normal parental concerns about homework and screen time. Sometimes Maya still asked about Nana, wondering if she ever thought about us. I answered honestly, probably, but from a distance that kept us safe. Maya accepted this, understanding in her 8-year-old way that love and harm could coexist in the same person, but harm meant necessary separation. We'd survived Patricia's attempts to continue her mother's legacy of self-hatred. The cycle broke with Maya, who would grow up free from the poison of colorism disguised as love. It hadn't been easy, would never be entirely over, but we'd won the battle that mattered most. Maya's sense of self-worth remained intact, ready to flourish.